Hey, it's Anthony Iannarino, author of The Only Sales Guide. And if you watched video number 1, you got a deep dive, well, not a deep dive, but you got to dive anyway into the 17 elements that make up the mindset and the skill set to succeed in sales. Okay, so we followed that book up with this book, The Lost Art of Closing. There's 10 commitments in this book. I'm going to walk you through those commitments because I need you to be up to speed before you get to book number 3, Eat Their Lunch, galley copy. I won't have the hardcover, flimsy, not great printing, but this is what they give you so you can try to figure out where you made mistakes in the book and do something about it before they print 12,500 hard copies of it. So that's how that works. So let's talk about The Lost Art of Closing. In the first book, The Only Sales Guide, I give you a competency model so you can say, where am I deficient? What do I need to improve? How do I get better? And that book will help shore up all those deficiencies for you. It's very prescriptive. It tells you what to do. Now we're going to get prescriptive about how we handle the process with customers. And it starts with the first commitment for time. So if you've said in the past, listen, I want to stop by, introduce myself, tell you about my company, share what our service offerings look like, and then learn a little bit about you, what the person on the other end heard is, you're going to talk about you, that should be delightful, and then you're going to talk about your company, heard it, then you're going to share your service offerings and your products with me, already got somebody who does that, and then you're going to ask me what's keeping me up at night like every other salesperson before. I'm a hard pass on this. Why? Because my time is too valuable, so you got to have a better pitch. And in The Lost Art of Closing, you learn to say something that sounds like this. Listen, I want to spend 20 minutes with you giving you an executive briefing on the trends that are going to have the biggest impact on your business. And listen, if we never do business together, you're going to challenge your management team with the decisions you're going to need to make over the next 18 to 24 months if you want to produce better results. I know I'm going fast. It's a 10-minute video, so the time is ticking away as I talk to you. So I want to give you as much value as I can, and I wanted to give you that script. So we'll move on and we'll save a little time on the next one. The second thing is explore. You have to engage in a conversation about what's possible. You have to start helping your clients see that there's something better available to them. And if they won't look at that, if they're immune to that pitch, if they're not interested in changing, they love the status quo, you're going to have a really tough time at this stage. But if you can't get them to explore change, you're not going to have an opportunity. And how do we know that? Because the third commitment is the commitment to change. And I know a lot of you watching this are going, the third commitment, are you kidding? What is this, a one closed sale, one call? It's not one call. What I'm telling you is that you can go all the way through discovery and at the end, find out that somebody said, you know what, we really can't change right now. We don't have the time, we don't have the money, we don't have the interest, we don't have the resources. We're not sure how we're going to do this. So you have to ask this question. Does it make sense to devote the time and the resources, and are we going to be able to get the support to make this kind of change if what we were talking about makes sense for you? If they say yes, you're going to move into discovery with way higher confidence that you're going to forecast this deal and that you're going to win it later. But you've still got work to do after these 3 commitments. After that, you've got to start collaborating. So if you show up and say, this is the right answer, and they show up and say, this is the right answer, it's my answer, it's your answer, or we collaborate together and it's our answer. And things are tricky now, and you're going to have to tailor your solution specifically to that client. You're going to have to understand, how do I build this in a way that people here can actually do what we need them to do to get the results that they say they need? That's collaboration, and it's critical. And to do that, you're going to have to start pulling in different people from throughout the organization. I know you don't want to bring in IT because they ruin everything. They say our project board is far too busy. There's no way we can talk to you. We'll have to put this in 2029 or sometime way, way out into the future, and that's not going to work. So you've got to be able to control that process and say, listen, if we don't bring your IT department in now, later on they're going to put the brakes on this. And they're going to have the moral high ground and the right to do that because we're so disconnected. We're so far ahead of them in building this solution that it's hard for them to say yes. So you need to build consensus. CEB says 6.8 people, could be 14 people, could be 22 people, I don't know. But you got to figure out who they are, and you've got to get them to say yes. And then at some point you have to talk about money. This is the commitment to invest. This means that you have to go to them and say, you're spending 100% right now. I need you to spend 111% so that you can get the results that you want. You need to invest more if you want better, if you want faster, but you can't have better, faster, and cheaper. So let's invest the right amount. Listen, what you're trying to do here is prevent your client from under-investing in the result they need. So you want to make sure that you give them something that they can say yes to, and that investment is something that you have to talk about. And then beyond that, you still have to have a conversation to review the solution. So why would you ever hand anyone a solution that they could say no to? Why would you hand them that when you could give them the chance to look at it and inform you and say, hey, listen, we love everything about it except this one thing is a problem for us. Okay, well, let me change that. Then I'll give you the final answer. You don't have to give them the final answer before it's time. Ask the questions. Then you have to ask them to resolve concerns. Okay, this is where it gets really tricky. Of all the commitments that are hard to gain, this one's a hard one. This is a difficult commitment to gain. So what happens is you say, here's our solution, and they say, oh, I love this. This is great. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this whole team back together again. We'll have a big meeting about this, and we'll call you in 2 weeks. And then you wait, and wait, and wait. And you're probably still waiting now for someone who told you they were going to call you 4 months ago. That 2 weeks has long gone by, and they've gone dark on you. And they went dark because they had concerns. And somebody in the room said, wait a second, is this too much money? Is it really going to work? What happens if it doesn't work and we're right in the middle of our peak season and we're not able to deliver? Maybe we should look at this again next year. And you let that happen because you didn't say, listen, right after your team gets together, they're going to have concerns, and they're right to have concerns. And they're going to need more assurances that they're going to get what they want. What I'd like to ask you for is the opportunity to come in and address those concerns. And if I can't do that, can I come in on a Zoom US and have a conversation with them, because they're going to be right to say no unless they're 100% correct here, that they're getting what they want. So let me help with that. You control the process. The two primary things you have to know about the Lost Starter closing: you have to help them understand the process. You have to sell them the process, because if they don't do this, they don't get what they want and you don't get the business. You also have to trade enough value to get a yes. And I will tell you, if you've gone through this process and you've done the things that I said here, so you've got the commitment for time, you explored change, they committed it makes sense to do this, you collaborated, you built consensus, you talked about the investment, you reviewed the solution to make sure it's exactly right, but just in case, you asked for the opportunity to resolve concerns so that you could make sure everybody's 100% satisfied and confident moving forward. Now you can ask for the business. Okay, so for years we've made a big deal out of asking for the business. We've said things like, say this, say, if I could give you 15% off of this right now, would you buy? Would you say yes? Well, now you just said, I got 15% profit built into this thing. Now I got to judge everything you said as lies, because if you can just drop it 15% right now to get me to say yes today, what did you base that pricing on? You were going to gouge me if I said yes before that? Not a great strategy. But there's worse. We used to teach people the Ben Franklin close. Ben Franklin would take a piece of parchment and draw a line down the middle. Parchment, yeah, it's not even paper at this time. It's the late 1700s. Why would you teach anybody to close using a founding father from 1776? It makes no sense. But they'd continue and say, he'd take all the positive reasons to do something and put it on one side, and then the negatives, and then he'd weigh them out. Nobody's going to have that conversation with you. You have to say something that sounds like this. Listen, I think that we've done everything we could to build the exact right solution. I think we have the support of your team. And unless you need something else, I'd like to ask you to sign this contract so I can put it in place for you. Does that work, or do you still need anything else? That's it. You can just be very, very natural about it. Or you can just say this: I'd like to ask you for your business. Can I ask you to sign a contract and get started? There's no tricks here. You don't need to be sketchy. You don't need to try to figure out some I don't know what a doorknob close is. People are, do you know the doorknob close? I never heard of such a thing. I just ask people, can I have your business? And they say, yeah, you've done all this work. You're exactly the kind of partner we're looking for. Okay, I'd love to tell you you're done here, but you're not. You're not done here. You have one thing left to do. You have to execute. So remember when you watched the first video and we said you're accountable for what you sell. When I said you're accountable for what you sell, you have to make sure that you get execution. So that means you have to make sure your team executes. But you also have to do something even more difficult. You have to go to the client and you have to get them to pick up their end of the stick. Have you ever sold anything and then the client didn't do what they needed to get the result? That's because you didn't have the commitment to execute. So you have one more commitment. You have to go back and say, let's make these changes so we can get you the result that you really need. That's the lost art of closing. It's super consultative. It's not what you thought it was. Go pick it up on Amazon if you haven't read it, and there's a quick review. Now we're ready to get into Eat Their Lunch, and I'll come back and I'll show you that in video number 3. I'm Anthony Iannarino. See you on the next video.